I'm going to record now. So obviously, for those that don't know, tonight we're going to be talking about Neil's latest book, Henry Hook VC. This is our first kind of Zoom talk that we're doing, and the plan is that as each of our books start coming out, we'll have the same format. So the author will come on and be able to kind of answer your questions as readers or fellow authors. And it's really good to see a lot of our all existing authors already signed up and logged in tonight. So that's great. We're quite a new publishing company, as Neil alluded to. So we started back in September. We've been inundated since then. We've got about 20 books already kind of contracted and signed up with kind of release dates over the next 18 months. So we're still open to new submissions, whether that's from first-time authors or old hands, as it were. And obviously, it's all word of mouth at the moment. We're not, we haven't got loads of resources. We're not spending, billions on advertising. So if there's anyone who kind of comes to mind, then, please pass them our way. Yeah, thank you for your support so far. And obviously we're really excited about this journey that we're on. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Neil to introduce himself as the author to those that may not know him.
Thanks, Ashley. Hopefully some of you guys do, and Beverly, not just guys. Some of you do know me and know what I'm all about. So I've been writing books for 10 years-ish, give or take. But prior to that, I was writing books, researching books for friends who wrote for, well, mainly military. Yeah, a lot of like medal research articles as well. I was researching for other people. They were producing articles, they were producing books. It just sort of evolved, if you like, to writing my own. I thought, well, I'm doing all this work. I really enjoy doing the research. And then I was handing it over to somebody who put it into a book. And I thought, well, the next step is for me to write my own. The first one actually ties in nicely with what the subject is today. The first book I did was Rorke's Drift, because I found some new accounts, sort of crunched all the primary sources, come up with some different conclusions and opinions. There's been several books, quite a few books since then, but that did really well, and I'm under no illusion, the subject matter helped. Very, very popular subject, always will be. So that film, done really well, and then people were literally throwing contracts at me, publishers, write this, write that. So we're signing up, writing all kinds of stuff. Jeff and Beverly in particular will know, one or two others that then it sort of went to Second World War territory. I've done a book about a guy at Arnhem. Prior to that, there was a few First World War books, and then Zulu War. So we've got the Yes and Luana book. We've got 3 in the pipeline, which we'll discuss later. And then this Hook now. The Hook one, I never pitched this to one of the big publishers because I thought, well, what I didn't want to do was write a big 200 and something page book on Hook, because I wanted it to be short and punchy and sort of straight to the point, and everything in there is like really good detail. I didn't want to describe his next door neighbor, how many kids his next door neighbor had, and what the name of the dog was, and I'm not really didn't really want to go down that route and do a huge book on it. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's our first book. It will be a series. Pretty much it in a nutshell, and it's very addictive. I can tell you now, for you guys who are writing. My plan was to write one, and that was it, and that was 10 years ago. And yeah, onwards, and just you'll do more. You'll find something else. You will, and that's it. So we'll jump on. We'll probably talk a little bit. Actually, if you actually wrote, we're not very. We haven't planned this. Have you got questions, or do you want me to just go for what the book's all about?
Yeah, we've definitely got some questions. So, the first one really is you've kind of alluded to. So why write this book now? What was the kind of reason?
Yeah. So I never pitched it to the big publishers. I didn't think, I don't know, but I didn't think they'd be interested because it's not a big hardback £25 book. And I wanted it to be how I didn't want them to say put up to 70, 80,000 words. Could have done that, but I wanted it to be the book I wanted it to be, not what a publisher wanted it to be. And I just felt that it'll appeal to a lot of people. So we've got amateurs, we've got general enthusiasts, we've got serious historians, big hitters, heavy hitters. It appeals to everybody because everybody knows Henry Hook and his story, or so I think everybody knows his story. I mean, even today we were getting asked, is it true that he was a teetotal? Well, was he a drunk? Was he like the film? One person said, what's VC after his name? So there's this, there's this broad spectrum of people who are interested in him. And yeah, I mean, the character, we'll touch on the character maybe later on, but he's probably one of the most famous British soldiers, private soldiers, and that's because of the film, I think. But also, what a reason for writing it was there's a lot of myths around him, around pretty much every historical figure, but a lot of these are sort of regurgitated every day. They're appearing on social medias and in books as well. So there's the teetotal thing. Now, we all know the film. We all know his portrayal in the film. In reality, so everyone says he was teetotal. A lot of people say he was a lay preacher. No, he wasn't a lay preacher. There's no record of that. And the teetotal bit is not quite accurate. Now, when he went to South Africa, totally enlisted, he went through the Cape War, Ninth Cape, and then he went on to Rorke's Drift into the Zulu War. He took a pledge not to drink whilst in South Africa. So that was it. He drunk before he went there, and no doubt he drunk afterwards as well. But yeah, so not a teetotal. And there's also actually, and this is in the book, at Rorke's Drift, there was rum ration, which has to get protected with a gun. And in his account, he actually says that I didn't drink. The issuing sergeant was surprised to see me in the queue for a drink after the battle, and he said, "Do you want some?" And he said, and I said, "I think I will after that." So he allowed himself a little go. He thought he'd earned it, and he had earned it. But then he actually contradicted himself later by saying he never touched, in another account, because he gave a huge number of accounts over like years, because he was in the public eye in his job. In another one, he said he never touched alcohol, but he probably forgot that. Well, he didn't think that some idiot 140 years later is going to be studying his accounts. That's what he did. And picking over them, and then looking for differences in them. He was offered a drink when he got his VC. He was actually not awarded to him. He was pinned to his chest at Rorke's Drift. Probably the only person in the Zulu War that happened to. Don't know if it happened to anybody else in other conflicts. That's quite a rare thing, definitely. And again, the officers offered him a drink, and he said no. So we clear that up. The thing that he's a teetotaler, he's a lay preacher. Well, not quite. He was totally different than the film, but another big one is he came home. He came home shortly after the Zulu War. He bought himself out for £18. Went home. When I say home, so the rumor is, or the myth is, that his wife thought he'd been killed in the Zulu War, and she'd remarried and moved away. Now that's not true. Literally, just go onto Amazon and look on the census. It's so easy to prove otherwise, So his wife still lived at the home address that he'd lived at prior to the Zulu War. Her mum and dad were lodgers at that address. He never came back there. He went straight to his mum and dad's, and he never went back to that house ever again, where his wife and his children were, and that was it. His dad passed away. He moved to London. And then that's another story. He got a job there in the British Museum and lived there most of his life then, before moving back to Gloucester shortly before he died. So, yeah, his wife, actually, there's another story. Again, this is in the book. So the myth is, though, the busting of the myth, she never ran off and remarried. She never thought he was dead. But they did eventually get divorced, but it was like 20 years later. She remarried, he remarried like a couple of months after they got divorced. And in the divorce, this is interesting. In the divorce, he actually cited that she'd had an affair, and he named the man, he named the place, the time, the dates. Oh, he knew all about it. Now, this was 3 weeks before he enlisted in the 24th Foot. So I don't think that was a coincidence. Could be, but you found out your wife's having an affair 2 weeks later, you're enlisted in the army, and you go and get yourself a BC, and the rest is history. So yeah, so when you look at these myths, it's sort of there's more, there's layers, there's more to it. When you look at trying to unravel it, all this comes to light. His family, a myth again. His family did not walk out of the cinema when that was released. That's a big one. Everyone believes that they did. Now, there's actually photos of them at a premiere, the Gloucester premiere. His daughter doesn't look very happy at all. But she was there, and she went on to attend another one as well. So there's no record, there's no recollection from family members, there's no evidence, there's nothing. The first time I saw, the earliest source I can find of this, the family walked out, is from the 60s, 1960s, and it was in like a regimental journal. Somebody looking back at the film for like the anniversary of it. Yeah. And that's another myth. So yeah, all these things made me want to write the book. There's also a lot of discrepancies, as I touched on, in his accounts. People will read an account or take something out of one of his accounts, believe it as gospel, which affects the whole outcome of how we see the battle. But then in 5 of his other accounts, he contradicts that. But because that's a bit of a juicy thing that he said, people just ignore the 5 other versions that he give, take the one out that means, it didn't happen like that, it happened like this, it happened differently. And yeah, it's sort of analyzes and scrutinizes the accounts. Now that what I'm mentioning there is that people have probably heard that he wanted to do a runner. Chard Bromhead wanted to go, do a runner back. Dalton stepped in. James Langley Dalton stepped in and told him, no, we have to stay. We have to build a barricade. Now, sort of true. Dalton did say that recommend to do that, but not to Chard, because Chard wasn't even there at the time. Chard was stationed down at the river. Now, Bromhead was at Rorke's Station with his men, and then there was other odds and sods. All of the accounts are clear. Chard's own accounts, lots of the defender accounts, I think possibly even some of Hook's accounts, Surgeon Reynolds, Dunn, loads and loads of accounts all say where we had a discussion, decided to stay. Dalton advised us as we were building the defence. Chard came up from the river and totally agreed with what was being done, suggested some improvements, and away we go. Chard was not there when they made a decision to stay, and yet in every book, most books, in all websites, all social media says Dalton, Chard and Bromhead wanted to run off. Chard wasn't there. And this all comes down because Hook's account, in one of his later accounts in 1905, or he died the year after. But in all the other accounts earlier, it doesn't say that. But because this one does, it's used as a fact. But when you put it against the others, it doesn't, like 20 there and 1 there. So just these little things that were, it's just, is it time? Because it was so long later, he just slipped, his timeline was a little bit out. There are other things that you can see in his accounts. So Hook was illiterate as well. So a lot of them actually say, a lot of the magazine articles that come out around the time, there's actually a disclaimer at the top, and it says, we asked Hook a series of questions because he can't write or anything. We have then got the answers and built a narrative around those answers. So when it says, here's an account from Hook, you're not reading an account from Hook. You're reading a narrative from a journalist who's said, here's Hook's account. Yeah. So there's room there for error. One little word out can change a lot. And that might probably does account for some of the inconsistencies in his accounts. So this is all looked at in the book as well. Now, some inconsistencies cannot be put down to journalistic errors or anything like that, really. So, I mean, when he came home, again, from the film, so a lot of you will be familiar with Sergeant Maxfield, who was his sergeant, who he had a little bit of trouble with in the film, and he was there when the rafters fell on him. He was burnt. The Zulu was burnt with him. Hook then left the building. Didn't quite happen like that. Hook wasn't even there when Maxfield died. Now, in Hook's first account, when he came home, he gave an account Hook and Maxfield were from the same place, same town. So the journalist was asking about Maxfield, and Hook, I can just say, basically embellished it a little bit. I said that Maxfield, I was the only man there to witness what happened. Maxfield jumped up and attacked the Zulus, went down fighting. He done this, he done that. There's 25 other accounts that say different from other people. Robert Jones is confirmed as the last man, the man in his citation in all of the other accounts, as being the only man to witness Maxfield dying. But yet Hook, in his first account, describes seeing him dying. So all these little things are really interesting, and it's not a slur on Hook at all, but it's from an historic point of view, these things need to be put out there, you know, if we are to analyze his accounts. Interestingly, he later, after that first account, he never repeated that story about seeing Maxfield die. He changed his story to suit what really happened. So in another 5-6 accounts, he described it completely differently. So yeah, I think that for me was a big reason to write it, because people read his 1905 account is biggest and most detailed. So people take that one, read it, look at it as fact. If you compare it to all his other accounts, it's different, and there are reasons why. One reason is that in 1897, a book came out about the regiment, covering from like the inception, 1689, whatever it was, up to 1897. Now, it described obviously Zulu War, Island Luana, Rorke's Drift. Now, the Rorke's Drift bit is not like a main narrative, so they've just put in Chard's account and Reverend Smith's account, two really good, highly detailed accounts. So this is what happened at Rorke's Drift, and they put them in there. Now, interestingly, Reverend Smith, you all know Reverend Smith, Ammunition Smith, big 6 foot, 6.5 foot, big ginger beard, running around. He's not in the film. He was running around distributing ammunition to the defenders throughout the battle. Tell them not to swear so much, but keep shooting. Yeah, and he's possibly one that I might do one of these little books on. His account's really, really detailed, and he was a very educated man. He went as far as describing the plants and flowers and shrubs and trees that were around the station at that time that he was there. Cape poplar trees, apricot bushes, they described them all. So that account was published in the 1897 book. It had featured in the Natal Witness earlier. Hook wouldn't have seen that. So what does Hook do? He gets a copy of this book. We know that because his personal copy is in the Furness collection in an archive dedicated to him from the staff at his museum that he worked at. We know he got a copy. In his next account, right after that book came out, he describes the trees around the mission station. All of a sudden, Hook's describing apricot trees, Cape poplar trees. It's clear that he's read Smith's account and he's took that information and built, and he's now using that into his own account, incorporating it. He also incorporates information that Smith said about the wagons coming up. The wagons were brought up to put the wounded on to take back to Helpmacar, but he gets it slightly wrong, or the journalist, reporter, wrote it down wrong, interpreted it wrong. He says in his account, the wagons were brought up because we were going to retire to Helpmacar. So that is where this thing's come from, that they were all ready to run off. It's come from this, mainly from this Hook's well-known account. So when you really get into nitty-gritty, you're looking at the accounts, you can see how they evolved over like sort of 20 years, why things were added. You know, I find that really interesting. You know, it's more, you know, it's not an overview, it's really digging in there into the sources, but that's what I like, that's what I love. And that's what's in the book as well. So getting back to what I said, it appeals to the general reader, but it also appeals to serious historians. That's why, you know, I think it's important, and it's useful for anyone and everyone.
So just reining you in slightly then. So obviously we've kind of hinted at some of those myths, and I think there's a few bits we'll cover off as we go through the story itself. Do you want to just give a quick like overview as to how the book is structured, like what the kind of the journey the reader's going to go on?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I can't remember all my chapters now. For those who just jumped on, I haven't got a copy. I haven't seen a copy of the book. Yeah. So obviously we start off early years. We don't dwell on it. We don't go into lots of detail. Just his upbringing, very, very normal, working class lad. I'm just gonna let a cat in. I don't know if you can hear that. He's scratching hell out of my window. This happens every time. There we go. We get into the military side of things quite quickly. So we start off obviously his upbringing. He was in militia and he was in volunteer units later as well. He was serving pretty much all through his life. We go over that. Obviously, he got married. He didn't get on well with his in-laws. They didn't like Hook one bit. The family say that they thought he was after their sort of property, just trying to get his foot in the door, sort of thing. They did then come to lodge with Hook and Comfort, his wife. They stayed there while he went to war, and as I said earlier, he never went back there. There was a lot of trouble, a lot of things going on. But we're quickly into Africa, South Africa, through the Cape War, straight to Rorke's Drift, and we're straight into it. And obviously, that's the main thrust of the book. We go over what I've just discussed throughout the book. So there's not a chapter on myths. They're all just sort of integrated into the narrative. As we get to that point, it'll be explained a little bit. There's more in the end notes as well. It's packed with end notes. And it's then from the battles from his perspective. So we start off in the build up, the run up to it. He's in the hospital. The main thrust of the battle for him. That was it. While he's in there's a lot going on outside, but I don't really go into much on that because, like I said, it'd be another 80,000 word book, which I've already done. Maybe we can touch on on his role in the hospital. I think you might have the images, the diagrams, but then actually he comes out of the hospital. He's then on a biscuit box retrenchment wall, covering fire, etc. He runs out to get a water cart in the early hours of the morning to help the wounded. And then so walking on the perimeter, he has a few lucky escape when he fights a wounded Zulu who feigned death. It goes on about onto them staying at Rorke's Drift after the battle, which was a really horrible experience. He got quite sick. A lot of people did. At least one of the defenders actually died of sickness after the battle. There's a lot of men. Lord Chelmsford came with his men because they were out chasing shadows. They came back after the battle. They all were all in a really small enclosed space. It was just a quagmire. There was no shelter. It was raining. That was a bad time for him. That is actually why he left the army. I mean, it wasn't until later, the year after, he actually said I got really, really sick, didn't recover from it, and I got out. But I'll just mention quickly as well that I do go into it. It's Cam. I think I saw Cam on here. Cam might be interested in this bit. He did try to get back to South Africa. So after he came out, he went to work in the British Museum. There's paperwork that exists. He was applying for jobs out there with various units. And in the end, that failed. He was then trying to get out there to take any job he could. There was actually adverts going out in the Natal paper, Witness, saying basically he'll take anything. Has anybody got any jobs? He wanted to go back out there. As it were, he didn't. So his later life, obviously, we covered. He came back. He went straight to his mum and dad's house. Sort of left his family. Then he went to London, job in the museum. Really good little bits about the museum. He worked his way up into this role, like an umbrella caretaker type role, and that's why people saw him. He's wearing his VC, talking about it to different people, and loads of accounts came out through that. And he was there right up until pretty much he died. He was not well. Doctor said you need to go back. The fresh air might help. He went back to Gloucester. Within a few months, he was dead. Mid-50s. So that was him. Very, very, dare I say, normal life, apart from this section where he went to South Africa, worked wonders over there, was awarded the VC. Last chapter, Zulu, the film, a comparison. And a little bit about the family, what they thought of it. goes into a little bit of detail about James Booth, who played Hook as well. There's some nice quotes in there about him describing the real Hook, which is the family actually were not happy. They didn't walk out the cinema, but they weren't happy. They wrote a strongly worded letter of complaint to the production team, and they sent a photograph of the real Hook to James Booth, who played him. So there's a little bit about that in there as well, and some nice quotes from James Booth as well, courtesy of Sheldon Hall, who wrote a brilliant book on the film.
Great stuff. So before we go into because I think the hospital is going to be the main meat of this, of just talking through and showing some of those diagrams.
Yeah.
Most of us would have watched Zulu, I'm pretty sure, and have a rough idea about Rorke's Drift. But do you want to just give a quick overview, just Rorke's Drift, and where kind of Hook sits within this diagram, etc.?
Yeah. Go for it. There we go. Okay. Not quite sure how you're all. I hope you're not all on tiny phones there and you can see this. So this is one of Chard's drawings. He'd done a series of these, showing different stages of the actual fight. Now the Zulus came from the bottom of the screen. The hospital's there on the left. You can see.
Whoa. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, go on, Bev.
Yeah. Can't, Beverly. Steady. Can't see the thing. So Ashley, is there going to be a recording where I will be able to see it when I run through it?
Beverly, yes. Swipe left or right. Swipe right. Sorry. Sounds like we're on Tinder, doesn't it?
Oh, got it. Sorry, darling. Sorry.
But it will be recorded, so you can watch it back. I think we're going to put it on our YouTube page, etc.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's fine.
I told you I'm crap at this.
So that little red dot, Ashley, I guess is you. There you go. So Ashley's we're on the hospital there. Now this let's start at the beginning. The bottom, so Zulus attack from the bottom. Yep, there we go. They attack up on this the wall between the storehouse and the hospital. They were aiming for that wall, which was we call the south wall. The fire from there and from the storehouse and from the rear of the hospital just was too much. They then swung around to the left. You can see all the black dots. They swung around the hospital and attacked the front of the post on this front corner. We're a really a weak position. Probably had something to do with the fact that the storehouse was where all the mealie bags were stored, and it was the furthest point away because they literally just managed to finish the defense before the Zulus showed themselves. So it was really, I think some places were like 3 foot high. They actually, in a couple of the accounts, it says there was a large gap in the wall where we hadn't put any mealie bags, so we just got a big plank of wood and put it across. So it was a really, it was a really dangerous spot to be in. As you can see, lots and lots of Zulus coming around this. They were all gathered there at this point. Hook, by the way, is in the hospital from the very start of the battle. So he's in the bottom left room on this diagram. He's in there. He's with another man called Cole, Private Cole, and there's one patient in there who's a native of the NNC, a native contingent. He's been wounded in a previous little skirmish that took place across the border. And he had his leg bound up, pretty much couldn't move. He was in there. Obviously, all these rooms are loopholed as well. And we'll get to it, but there are other allocated defenders in that building, in other parts of it. And there's a whole load of patients in there. Some could hold a rifle and fight. Others were completely, bedridden with fever and different things, delirious, and they couldn't be of any use in the battle. Okay, so the Zulus attacked the front. Really, they were sort of getting in. The British knew they were going to get in. Chard ordered a withdrawal after a short space of time to where Ashley is now. We call that the dog leg, because that's what it was either Chard or Penn Simmons or somebody described it as a dog leg. They threw up a few mealie bags there. They pulled back from the front of the hospital. Of course, the front of the hospital is now wide open, and as you can see, the Zulus took advantage of that, and they were swarming over the barricades, storming into the front of the building. There was men there defending it, and then Bromhead from the dog leg would gather a few men, and he would just go charging out of there, bayonet charge, and straight into the Zulus and clear them out. He'd done that time and time again to try and protect the men in the hospital. Yeah, 6 or 7 times at least. That's what one man said. That's what they did. So as the battle progressed, men in the hospital are obviously still fighting constantly. As this front of the hospital's pulled back, it's really, really precarious position, especially the front left of the hospital. So we've got well, it's a middle room there actually. The room one up from Huck's. It's got no internal door whatsoever. So there's 2 men in there with several patients. Their only way out of that room is outside, and there's quite a few Zulus out there trying to get in. They didn't mouth hold, they didn't knock through the walls, although they did later. Chard did say that he did ask them to do that, but maybe it was because of time, or they didn't think it was necessary at the time. It wasn't done. It wasn't done. So eventually, the defenders on the dog leg. What happened was there was more Zulu regiments came through. Now, I'm not going to embarrass myself because some of you, Cam, Alex, will laugh. I can't pronounce them. Offalwana and Lengui and Loku and Londlo. Maybe I'll ask one of you to say them later in the Q&A. More regiments came through from the Zulus. They attacked the entire stretch of the front, across the front. The defenders were really, really stretched, and they were going to be overrun. The defenders knew it. Chard knew it. He then ordered a withdrawal. So this main yard, this main central space of the defense, that whole area was given up. So they retired back to this little retrenchment, which they threw up. They made a wall there out of biscuit boxes, and they all ran back to behind there. All apart from the people in the hospital who were still in there. So yeah, this yard becomes a no man's land. The defense is very, very small now, as you can see from that. There's the kraal on the right, which is manned as well. Very, very, very small. They are compact in there, but as it turned out, it was a really, really good move. They were solid and proved to be impenetrable to the Zulus. But this left the hospital. The guys in there were absolutely left out on a whim. Things didn't go very well. So that's the main battle. And I think probably now we can actually. Have you got the hospital diagrams?
Yes, yeah. Probably worth just covering before we go on to that. Why was Hook in the hospital?
Yeah. Okay. So he was allocated hospital cook. He had been. He was on a rota, essentially. So he wasn't a cook by trade or by anything else. He was a labourer before the war. Nothing to do with cooking. It was just his turn, we think. So he's in there now. There were 6 men allocated to defend the hospital. This explains it a little bit better. Yeah, a little bit clearer on there. So you can see just before we do get into that, you can see the dog leg on the right hand side, on the sort of top right. That's the dog leg we were talking about. There's this space in front of the hospital, which was manned at the beginning, which soon fell back to the dog leg. Yeah, so this is a good diagram actually. My dad did this, particularly for the book, and we've marked out these red dots. Bottom left, we've got 2 dots. We've got Hook, we've got Cole. They've got an external door facing south. The room next to theirs, we've got an external door. Sorry, actually up there, that's the one. That's the one. So those guys in there, that's to put it mildly, that's the worst place in the entire defense to be. Absolutely horrible position to be in. Their only way out is through that door. And that was the point of the Zulu attack. They swung around that side of the hospital. There's no way they're getting out of there alive. No way. So there's 2 guys in there, John Williams, Joseph Williams. They're the allotted defenders. There's also several patients in there. And then we've got the other 2 actually on the bottom right-hand side, if you like. Now, this is like a T-shaped room. It's a really weird layout of the hospital. So again, the only diagrams do vary, but this is, judging from the sources, there couldn't be an internal door. because people were moving all the way around here just to get into there, to come through the holes. They've got one external door. That's it. So it was almost like two rooms in one, if you like. There's a sort of a little bit in between. So we've got William Jones, and we've got Robert Jones. So the one at the top is Robert. He was there. We've got William on the other side. Now this is an interesting thing. So out of all the defenders, we've got two Williamses, two Joneses. Now they were literally they didn't volunteer. Let's get that out of the way. People say, "Oh, they volunteered to go in there." They didn't. If you look on the roll, the company roll alphabetically, there was, I think, 5 Joneses, multiple Joneses, multiple Williamses, as there would be in the regiment, in the company. They are next to each other. So the two Joneses are next to each other, the two Williamses next to each other, even the first names alphabetically. So that might have just been a case of, right, you two there, you two there. Bromhead says in his account, and I think some others say that Bromhead allocated these defenders. Bourne says that he was ordered to place men in there. So it might have been a case of Bromhead delegating to Bourne. He's literally just, it's done from this, I'm sure it's done from this role, it's done from this roster. Hook, obvious choice. He was the hospital cook, so he would have been in there brewing up. He's been brewing up the patients. He's been taking them, their food, tending to them, etc. Obvious choice. Hook's going to be one of the men in there. He knows the layout, etc. Cole, anyone's guess, but random, possibly to go with Cole. To go with Hook. But the other two pairs definitely wasn't just random, and they didn't volunteer as well. Interestingly as well, though, I mean, just going William the Joneses, there was a massive age gap between them, huge age gap. Talking like Robert Jones, what was he, early 20s, 21, something like this. Williams like nearly double his age. Solid pair, as we will see later. Absolutely solid pair of soldiers. Nothing got through them anyway, as with all of them. So that's that in a nutshell. So as the battle progressed, what happened was Cole, this is a myth again, that it says that he suffered from claustrophobia. Cole, I didn't even see you do that. You just switched diagrams. Nice. So he runs out the front, straight out, and with put him going that way, now accounts vary again. He ran out at some point in the battle, and he was shot in the head, and he was killed as soon as he ran out. Now, I have my theory, others may have theirs. Some say he was shot on the veranda. But if you look at Chard's accounts, he actually names some men as distinguishing themselves, as fighting, that he noticed them above everybody else. Cole is on that list of about 5 men. Now, if Cole ran out of the hospital, there's only one Cole there, by the way, no others, who were fighting. If Cole ran out and got shot in the head straight away, that's not very distinguishable. There is also an account of him fighting in the storehouse compound, as I call it, the final section after the yard was abandoned. Hitch, I think it was, said that we fought from the corner there. He mentions 3 or 4 men. One of them is Cole. I think Cole made it back to there, and I think he fought, and he fought well. And there's no source primary that says he suffered from claustrophobia. That was Donald Morris in Washington Spears, who may have come up with that conclusion himself. And it's been repeated. So let's clear his name and let's say that there's no evidence for that at all. And actually, there is evidence that he fought well before being shot in the head. Hook's now by himself in that room, and he's under attack. He's got 2 loopholes to contend with and a door, which is barricaded. Yeah, so what's the next diagram, Ashley? We've got 6 of these.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot happening on this. Quite a lot happening on this. As the Zulus forced an entrance, they're still trying to get in the front. They forced an entrance there where Ashley's marker is. Joseph Williams is fighting in that doorway, while John Williams decides to pick up a pick and knock a hole through the wall. There's no other way out, literally no way out. Joseph Williams and one other patient, one patient, make a run. There's evidence they made a run out of the front as they were fighting. The other accounts say that they were dragged out, or Joseph Williams was dragged out. They took a lot of Zulus with them. Probably you're looking at about a dozen before they were actually overpowered. And there are accounts of them being not quite disemboweled, but let's say cut up as Zulu custom, and their comrades in there were looking out and watching it. And it angered quite a lot of the defenders later when they found that. They found their mates outside there. So John Williams knocks through the wall. He runs back into here. By now, Hook has moved back. It's just too much pressure in that room for one man. He did say in one of his accounts he was forced out of there through smoke because the building was set on fire. But he said in another account that he came out of there because his gun kept jamming and he couldn't cope, really. And in this room that he moved into, there was a load of patients in there. And, with Williams's ones that he brought through, you're looking at maybe 9 patients. Some of them were fighting. So it was just a more secure place. Unfortunately, the native guy is still in this other room at the top. He would be killed. Sorry, actually, left corner where Hook was.
Oh yeah.
So the native who, if you remember, had his wounded leg, he couldn't come out. Hook said there was no time to get him out. Although Hook did go back in there later, and the Zulus did come in and trying to force the door. So you can see Hook in that doorway now. He's holding this door. He held that spot for a while. He actually describes fighting over the soles of his boots once the Zulus forced the way in. And he said a lost count of how many of them are killed. But he was actually able to build a barricade of Zulu bodies in that doorway to stop any more coming in. While he's doing this, there's still men on the front, patients on the front. Some of them are hiding in the front left room or the front right room. Some are making a run for it. Some are getting stabbed as they go. There's all sorts going on there. But Hook and Williams did not make a run for it. They were in there and they were ordered to save the patients and protect the patients. So that's what they did. They didn't run. And they now started fighting withdrawal through this rear of the hospital, through these walls. Hook is holding the door. John Williams is smashing his way through. Yeah, there we go. So actually, can you just go back to that previous one for a second? There we go. So you'll notice there we've got the two. Yeah, there we go. We've got the two Joneses there. While this is all going on, now this has been sort of incorrectly, I think, incorrectly put together. From again, the film doesn't help. Those two men carried out an evacuation before Hook and Williams had broken through to their room. So the interview, there was 2 stages of evacuating from this window, this high window in this wall. I did put this in my Rourke's Drift book, not a plug, but it's in there, quite detailed how we've come to that conclusion. And there is more evidence that's come to light since then that does say that this is how it went down. So we know that there's 2 evacuations. So the Joneses, I won't go into too much detail because we're focusing on Hook. They are out the window. They are across the yard to safety, whilst the other guys are still breaking through. There we go. This middle room at the back, where Ashley is now, dodgy room. There's nobody in there. So it was a storeroom. There was one door that faced outwards. There was no point putting men in there. I know that they did the same on the top with the Williamses. They put men up there and they were trapped with one external door. But there was no other rifles along that wall apart from one in Hook's room. They needed somebody there. Along this rear wall, the south wall, they had Hook. They had the room with a load of patients, fighting patients, covering fire. They had there we go. They had men in there, patients. Private Roy was a fighting patient, a few others, and the Joneses. They didn't need to put anybody in this really, really dangerous room. There was should have no purpose having one man in there with a loophole, no way to get out. So that was actually barricaded, strangely enough, from the outside. There's an account. Actually, I've only just found this out myself. I didn't know it was barricaded from the outside, and that was in an account. Here's another plug. Ian and Lee's book. Lee Stevenson, Ian Knight, they found an account which said that that was blocked from the outside. I hadn't seen that account before. There's not many I've not seen before, but that was one. So they were, I won't say they were safe, but by breaking into there, they knew that that door, you know, unless the Zulus started picking away at the barricades, which they wouldn't have been able to have done previously because the Joneses had it totally covered by their loopholes in this end room. You know, the Zulus would have had no cause to try and get in there when there's no loopholes. There was just no point. There was more, let's say, there's more tempting targets for them to go for. Hook's door for one, the Joneses' door for another, the Williams's door, the front of the place. So no, they weren't safe, but they were able to get through that middle room without the Zulus interfering. Although there is an account, so somewhere along here, it was either there or the next, possibly the next one. It's unclear. One guy did make a run. You know, maybe his bottle went. Maybe he thought he could run around the post and get into where the defenders were. I don't know. At this point, these guys wouldn't have known that all this yard has been abandoned and they are essentially, by themselves. So he might have ran out, then just thought, oh bugger, where's everyone gone? So there was one man stabbed there. Hook mentioned it. He said that most of us got through. A few others mentioned it, but not in any detail. Not enough for us to know exactly what happened there. But something definitely did. So, yeah, we've got Williams now out of the window with all of the patients, apart from one, which is showing in blue on there. So we've got Hook and we've got the blue market, which is a guy called Connolly, Private Connolly. Now, he had his knee was wrecked. This guy was in absolute agony. He couldn't move. And he was left. So when Williams and the others were getting everybody through, they left Connolly. He was very difficult, but very heavy man to carry, according to Hook, who had to fight in the doorway, the first doorway that he was holding next to his corner room. He then had to keep looking back. When everyone else had gone, he made a run. He literally dragged Connolly off his bed, straight through the first hole, through this middle room. He held that hole whilst all the others got out. Once they all got out, he made another run, dragged Connolly to where we see him now on there. Yeah, dragged him out, dragged him through, and he got out. And there's an account to say that an assegai, well, a Zulu threw a spear and it actually struck Connolly, but didn't pierce his clothing, so it didn't do him any serious damage. Hook also, by the way, did get a scalp wound, so he was holding the door by himself. He got a lucky escape. Zulu threw a spear. His helmet took the brunt of it. The front of the helmet under the front took the force of it away. It gave him a wound on the front of his head, and didn't cause him too much trouble at the time. Probably adrenaline, and he had a lot more things to think about. So he didn't even report it at the end. There's no medical report, although there is medical reports for everybody who received treatment. There's nothing on Hook's scalp wound. All we have is his own accounts that he described. It caused him a lot of trouble in later life, an awful lot of trouble, severe headaches and things like this. And there we go. And this painting that's just come up, by the way, is one that I commissioned some time back. When I did commission it, I didn't plan on writing this book. This was years ago. So I'm pleased that it's now got in a book. It's on the back cover in colour. It deserves to be in colour as well. And this is by Jason Askew, the artist. So it's a really good portrayal. The room wasn't that big, and if you can imagine, it would be filled with smoke from firing these rifles. Also smoke, we all know the building was set on fire. The thatch was burning. Although I do think that really set ablaze later, after they had evacuated. Don't get me wrong, it would have added to the dark, dingy, smoke-filled rooms, the shouting, the Zulus coming in, horrible position to be in. But there we go. So that's Jason. Some of you may have seen that before. That's Jason's depiction of the room.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks for that, Neil. So I think we've kind of touched on this in places, but probably worth just covering Hook's portrayal in the film.
Yeah, yeah. We all know it. We all know it. Now it's a two-edged sword. Everyone knows Henry Hook. Everyone knows him. Everyone knows him because of this, because of the film, because of his character, sort of rogue, lovable rogue, if you like. You know, bad boy turned good, proved himself at the end. You know, we could do a full zoom just on that, and it'd go on for hours. It's really, really great character, an interesting character. Is it like the real Hook? Absolutely not. You know, we've already mentioned. I mean, for all the people to, it was just pick somebody and you know, Hook drew the short straw. And it was the one man Hook who actually made a pledge of not drinking in South Africa. And he chose Hook to, you know. So obviously his family were not happy with the portrayal. We know that. But it is a double-edged sword. Yeah, there we go. So this is an interesting photograph from the Gloucester premiere, courtesy of Sheldon Hall again. This has come from the museum in Brecon archives. Sheldon passed it to me to use. So the red, yeah, Ashley's marked Hook's daughter there, Letitia. Not happy. Not happy. She's there with dignitaries and other members of the family. And she did write a letter. And as I said, a photograph went to James Booth, who played Hook. Actually, do you know what? Actually, let's open it up. Because, like I say, it's a two-edged sword. One, it's sort of thrust the name of Hook into sort of everybody knows him, but at the same time, the portrayal was a far cry from the real man. What are everyone's opinions of? Well, I'm assuming we've all seen the film. Yeah, are we disgusted? Are we? Do we? What? You know, what? I'll flick across so I can see everybody. What's everyone's thoughts on it?
Can I speak first? I'm a woman here. I'll get in and then I'll get out.
Ladies
I
first.
watched the film. I was a girl. I was a child. I watched it. It was exciting. The older you get, you tell yourself it's a film.
Yeah.
And that's it. If I want to know
Yeah.
something about the film, I can watch, you know, Saving Private Ryan, A Bridge Too Far, and all the rest of it. And you know, I know Caroline and Annabelle and all the rest of it, and Judy Urquhart and all the rest of it. If I want to know about that, oh yeah, it's a good way to get in, but then find out about it as you've written this book about this man. I'll trust your thing. James Booth made a good character out of the man, but what was his character? I would trust you rather than the film.
Yeah.
But then I am
That's it.
70.
It's a fuss in. You know, people watch the film, and me personally, I used to go to my grandparents' house every Sunday with my mum and dad and my brother. I used to make him put it on. I used to read the books at the time, Ian Knight, James Bancroft. I used to draw the pictures out of them. And then I'd go in the back garden back in the day when we had rubber bins, and the tops of the bins made really good shields because they had a handle. And I'd get the biggest stick I could find. I'd get a dustbin lid and I'd run around the house pretending to attack my family. It's all because of the film. So, you know, I totally get where
Neil,
you're coming from.
that's what I was going to say. I mean, it's an interesting thought, but how many of us would be here? How many books would have been written if it wasn't for the film?
No, dead right. Dead right. Well, so I mean, maybe specifically more about Hook's portrayal in the film. For me, I'm sort of I can see both sides to it. He was one of my, dare I say, favorite characters when I was a child. He's a standout character, and at the end, you know, he got the VC, and you think, wow, you know. But then, as you learn more, you think, oh well, maybe it wasn't a very accurate portrayal. I can see both sides to it, but I know opinion is split. Anybody else want to share their opinion? Don't feel like you have to.
Yeah, Neil. It's poetic. Well, it's poetic license, isn't it? It's a film, for God's sake. You know, all these characters in all these films that we see nowadays. It's, you know, poetic license. It makes a film. They have to sell the film. They have to make money. Yeah. Like everyone else says, if you really want to know what these characters are like, do your research. Look into it. You know, like you say, you've done a book on it. So, great. But Hook, yeah, he made the film. Great. Everyone now knows his name. But if you really want to know his story, start reading and researching what you're looking for.
Yeah, it spurns people's interest. Some people do, unfortunately, take it as gospel, but hopefully most don't, and they then are then enthusiastic. The interest's there. They then go to read about the real and yeah, like you say, it evolves, doesn't it? So yeah, no, I totally agree. Totally agree.
Just to add that, so in the comments box, so Jonathan Saunders says the film gives you the initial interest in Hook, and then you find out the truth. But however you look at it, the film has given Henry Hook a profile for the past 50+ years, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, 100%. Couldn't say it better myself. Yeah, yeah.
But that is like that in all films. I mean, my interest is Second World War, but I am a woman. I do try and nibble into these little bits, as you know. But
yeah,
it is, if I want to know about it, then I'll ask. That was the other thing. Are there any of his relatives still alive? Is his daughter still alive, or her family still alive, or do you?
There are relatives. So there's two families. He's got two sets of descendants, if you like.
Yeah.
Because obviously he sort of had a wife and two children. He never went back to them. And it's in the book that he wasn't well thought of in that family, and his daughters and granddaughters were brought up to be ashamed of him. Yeah. There's a lot, it's in there when you guys get a copy. It's all in there. So yeah, there's two.
Neil?
There's two. Yes, mate. Yeah.
Hi, sorry, that's me. Just that.
Hey, Matt.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. With the thing about the you say about the family, I put in the chat. Are you aware about the thing of his grave disappearing for 6 months?
Yeah.
It was in the local. Yeah. It was in the local press about 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a family dispute where I think a family member or a distant family member turned up at the grave in Churcham, saw it was in quite a poor state, and he literally hired a private contractor to turn up, take the stone away, and then several people turned up to come and visit, and it wasn't there. So they went to the church and said, "Where's it gone?" And they went, "We don't know." And it all went in the local press to go, "Who knows where it's gone?" And then this distant person said, "Well, I just wanted to sort it out."
Yeah.
So,
isn't it? Yeah. Don't know the ins and outs, nitty gritty as to actually which family members were involved, but yeah, it caused a bit of a panic at the time, didn't it?
Yeah, it certainly did.
Yeah, so there is various family members, Beverly. Yeah. There's actually a street named after him, and some of them went a good number of years back. Great grandson. It's actually called Henry Hook VC. His full name with the BC as well, Henry Hook VC Street. And there were several family members there.
Do you think then that from your this little book that I will get and look forward to seeing, because I haven't ordered it yet, but I will. Do you think that possibly the attitude of the relatives might change? Because obviously this man didn't go back for a reason. And if the reason was his wife was unfaithful in that time, can you imagine the stigma that went with that? For him, not only for him, because that would have been appalling. For him, your wife mess asking about with somebody else would have been awful.
Well, I'll just put this is very relevant to what we're talking about. So I will also say that the first family, when I say that they were brought up to be ashamed of him, and they were told that he was a womanizer. So, yeah. Oh, so I honestly, I don't know what, who we don't know. So he accused her of the affair. It came up in the divorce. He named the person. He named the dates when it happened. He knew all about it. but he was painted in a similar light in that family. So obviously lost the history now, but there was a lot going on, I think, which we don't know.
Mm.
Yeah,
You can't guess at it, can you?
No.
Neil, a
And there
question.
was his family from the second wife.
Yeah, still about. Yeah, still no. You know, they know. We know who they are, if you like. There's a guy called Graham Mason. Actually, he's in touch with them. I think I think the closest will be great granddaughter or great granddaughter, but she's an old, you know, she's an old lady. She's well aware of of who he is and everything else.
Oh, that's good. It's good.
Neil, a related question we had in the chat, it was from John Williams, he's had to leave since, was, have you found out why Hook was portrayed in the film in that way? Was it based on a specific account, book, etc.?
No. They just wanted a character in the film. He drew the short straw. Nothing, no. That's basically, that's the answer. Can't really elaborate. The answer is no. Like I said earlier, it was, you know, the one man who actually made a point. Others may have took pledges and things, don't know, but he actually made a point of saying, I took the pledge, I did not drink. I mean, what a short straw to draw. You're the man who was the drunk. So yeah. I mean, none of the characters, and I mean none of them were accurate. You know, we don't want to drift too much off Hook. We could talk about this, but none of them were accurate at all. Got Bromhead, Chard, Bourne, Dalton, Hitch. Hitch drew, you know, bit of a clown in the film, bit of a joker, wasn't he? Bit of a but in reality, top class soldier, put himself in harm's way multiple times. Everywhere there was something happening, he was there. You know, and he got a VC.
You said he wrote about the apricot trees or whatever. So did he teach himself? Did he learn to read and write?
No, so actually he did well. So initially he'd write X for a signature. When he got married the first time, it was an X. I think by the second time he got married, he actually he could write his name, but he couldn't write off our account. No. And that's what I was alluding to earlier. So I want to say, oh, Hook's account, it's Hook's account, but he didn't write it. It's classed as Hook's account, but it's a journalist or a reporter or somebody who interviewed him. It's their words, and they've either asked a series of questions or have they done it verbatim. You know, you don't know, and that's why we have to question some of the information in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, room for error.
Yeah.
So obviously conscious of time, because we've obviously lost a number of people who've had to go. So for those that are left, is there any other questions that you'd like to ask at this stage?
I have a question for Neil, if you don't mind.
Hello, Andy.
You say you're doing a series of these books. What are the sort of characters you're looking at? Are they just Rorke's Drift, or are they people throughout the Zulu War?
100% throughout the Zulu War. 100%. If you've got any ideas, Andy, let us know. If you want to write one, we're always looking.
I mean, any surprises? Like, you know, I mean, are we talking, you know, officers, just other ranks, or are we talking, you know, real surprises? I'm intrigued. You know, are we taking in, you know, all these different individuals? I mean, we all know that was how many people took part in the Zulu War. So, you know, I'm really intrigued that you're going to choose other people than Rorke's Drift.
Yeah. Do a deep dive into the characters, and analysing these little nitty gritty things that I like. Not writing, 50 pages about his ancestors. It's all these little punchy little things. So The next book, I can probably announce that now. It's not a secret, although we haven't mentioned it. The next one in that series will be Hitch, Fred Hitch. After that, don't know. I'd like to do Ammunition Smith. Obviously, we'd like to do all of them. But outside of Rorke's Drift, I'd be happy to bring in, Ashley and I will be happy to bring in other authors to write some as well. I have got a couple of ideas, but we'll probably put them out to other authors. Now, I'm completely transparent, and I'll admit that my strength is Rorke's Drift.
Right.
You know, I'll hold my own against anybody when we're talking about this. And I've got a lot of the research there going back 20 years. So it's all there. It's things that I've got in my mind, little sort of things that I've analysed and I want to get out there. So it's not that they're ready-made. It's that I've already got the information there, the theories there. So it'd be a lot easier for me to put those out. It's underwater would be really good, you know. Sorry, I'm going to backtrack on that. So there is a book that I am actually. It's going to be my next book. Contradicts myself now. It's Melville and Coghill. So, so it's 2 in 1. But I have been doing this for a couple of years, but it took a little bit of a back seat while Mike and I done the Sanduana book.
Okay, let's talk Sanduana here, right?
Yep.
Melville and Coghill, yeah, great. I understand that. What about Cochrane?
Yeah.
30-second, right? It's Sanduana and Coloban.
Yeah. I do know that there's somebody transcribing some material at the minute, a well-known. I can't really say too much. There might be something in the works, but definitely somebody like, you know, him or somebody, people like that. And literally anybody who is in the Zulu War, we do. Anybody, as long as there's what we wouldn't do is just publish regurgitated information. That's, you know, it'd have to have some sort of angle, like this Hook one. You know, we've analysed the sources, we've picked out the discrepancies in it, said why some things should be believed, why things shouldn't. There's more about his family that's being put out there, various other points. You know, it's new stuff. We'd consider as long as there's a new angle or a new material, then anybody's, you know, fair game.
Yeah, right. Okay, mate. I understand that. So look forward to what you're going to be publishing then, you know, and well, be purchasing your book. So yeah,
thanks,
good work.
I didn't realise you were on, Andy, because I've seen the diagrams, and then I've come onto this page and there's just like 6 names. Didn't know. It's good to see you on there. Obviously, we never spoke, but I've seen all your posts going back years. A lot of gems that you posted, so it's great that you jumped on.
Yeah, no problem, mate. I really it's really great tonight. I really enjoyed it. Fantastic. Keep up the good work, mate.
Thanks very much. And if you've got any, obviously, if you have got anyone you want to write about, obviously let us know.
Yeah, no problem, mate. I've got plenty, so I've got hundreds of them, so love them all.
Drop me, add me on the Facebook if you like, and then we can maybe discuss it.
Yeah, no problem, mate. We'll do.
Super. Cheers, Andy. Thanks, mate.
Are you going to do all the VC recipients?
I think most of them, at least, yeah, because there's a lot of information. I mean, there's been books on them before, but it's I look more into. So I'm not somebody who'll, like I said it earlier, look back at all their family history and things. I look at them, their experience, what they went through, and I'll do a deep dive into their accounts, the personal, more personal. I think I can offer something different. And look at the myths as well, get to the bottom of the myths. You know, a lot of people might just say, oh, you know, it's believed that this, or it's said that this, or, well, if it's said that, who said it? When did they say it? What evidence is there that they said it? And I'll then go off on down this hole. And just to write one sentence or one paragraph might take me 3 months, but I'll get to the bottom of it, you know, and I'll get the answer. And if I can't get the answer, I'll write that I can't get the answer. It's not known. So, so yes, to answer the question, yeah.
The book.
Yeah, I would like to do most, if not all of them. Yeah.
They'd make a nice little thing on the shelf, wouldn't they?
Would, yeah. Yeah. When I get time. When I get time.
I might be dead.
Neil,
Well,
just an
England.
observation. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Neil. Just an observation from Jeff McKinley. He's just, I think he's popped off potentially, but he said one of the things in Lincoln was that the family Bromhead were fairly rich in the late 1880s. They built a hospital called the Bromhead. It was specifically for wounded soldiers after this battle, and it is still a private working hospital.
Brilliant. Brilliant. It's good to see Jeff on air, because obviously Jeff's, I know Jeff through probably Beverly will recognise him as well, from Arnhem Buff. It was good to see him on air, and that he's obviously knowledgeable about this, because we see people on socials, we don't know what their interests are. So, nice surprise.
Are you going to Arnhem this year?
I'm too busy writing. Probably not. I haven't made plans anyway, so I'll have to make plans between now and then.
If you go and get your finger out, it's getting tight. It's like Normandy.
Yeah. Oh, Jeff's still on. Sorry, Jeff. I thought you'd gone. I thought that's why I asked
Oh,
you.
I'm still here.
Sorry, mate. I was talking about you like you were gone.
No. The reference to Bromhead Place, it's still there. It's still a working place. It wasn't specifically for the soldiers there, but for any soldiers after that battle, which it was used for. Yeah,
Got you.
No doubt about that. And yes, I mean, my situation. I have a father at Arnhem who did the full whack North Africa, Sicily, Italy, and then Arnhem. But unfortunately, my father died from his wounds he received there when I was 1 year old. And I knew nothing about him. So things like that sort of thing tie in, and I quite enjoy it. About the actual, about the film. Well, how much is true in anybody's film? It's going to be exaggerated for the excitement and to stir up a little bit. But that's life. We're all in that situation. I do like your situation, and I know from before having talked to you about your interest and how broad it is, like mine. It's a right mixture. And I'm very interested in those sorts of areas. My actual family, going back, I know my father, my grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, great-great-great-grandfather were all in the army, generally from the Scottish side.
Right.
Yeah. So it's in my blood. That's why I like to have a little looks at things like you're doing now, and you've helped me out before. So thank you very much for that as well.
Problem. Not a problem. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah. I'll keep my eye out, and you'll be getting an email about the book anyway very soon.
Just for everyone's benefit, they actually did mention it earlier. They're due to me on Friday. So anyone who's ordered one will be posted out on Friday.
All right. Yeah. No, I understand. No, I've had a great time. Thank you very much. I'm laid on my bed. I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm laid on my.
Now I saw your legs before.
Well, it's a bit of peace and quiet, shall we say? Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll be getting off now anyway. So thank you very much for that.
I think we're wrapping up now anyway. I think we're done. Unless anybody's got anything else you want to.
Just to finish, Neil, you've mentioned Melville and Coghill, and what about your other book that's in the pipeline?
Yeah, okay. So Melville and Coghill will be the next one, and that is more about. It's not a big book about Isla Luana. It's not going to be another 200 or 300 pages on that battle that's been done to death already. It's just an overview. It's obviously a little bit about the background, an overview of the battle, their retreat, to the river, and then it's more how they came to be awarded their VCs. That's the sort of main thrust of it.
Oh,
it's a really interesting thing. It took 20 odd years. Was it 28? Was it 28 years later? They were all awarded posthumous VCs. So I've got a lot of official documentation with the King, with all the sort of War Office, with Coghill's family, with Melville's family, all this back into behind the scenes. Coghill's family were the uncle, especially, sorry, the father was the right one. Pretty stern in his letters, demanding the Victoria Cross and all this. So I've got these letters; they'll be in there. So it'll be more about how and why the VCs happened, and so long after the event.
Interesting.
That's the main thrust of it. But yeah, we've got Isandlwana, we've got Return to Isandlwana, which is pretty much all there. We need to just format it, and then we're moving back to the hook, similar to the hook book. Next one will be Hitch, unless Andy beats me to it and gives us one that we're going to get out before that. But yeah, then it's just these small books, series of these small books, and whatever else pops up. Lots of ideas, not enough time.
No. Well, I look forward to other books, I must admit.
Yeah, excellent.
And good stuff.
Neil,
Peter and Nick and John was on. You guys have got this to look forward to. So if everyone doesn't know, these are writing books currently for us. So we will, signed up. They're done. There's no escape for them. So
Can you put some other women on here, please?
Yeah, we have got women writing for us.
I know, I've seen that, but I thought I didn't realise I'd be the only one. I haven't seen any others come up.
Well, it wasn't only you invited, Bev. It was an open offer.
Beverly, my name's Beverly.
Sorry, but we can't force people on. So we're open to all, doors closed to none.
You can tell I'm not shy.
No.
Indeed. But the
brain don't work quickly enough, but I just love it. I just, and Neil has been so good to me. I really appreciated his help. I mean, we had a bit of a disaster the day we opened that bench, didn't we? But I said to you, I'm sure I can take a guess. Would you like to come with me, Neil, to the Arboretum?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll chat off this. We'll chat off this off the Zoom, and we'll get something sorted out.
We do that.
Neil, just a final question before we wrap up. A chap who has joined us from Norway this evening that's correct. It is watching in Norway. He's just inquired about whether there'll be any more Zulu War pictures. So I'm assuming he's referring to the prints that have been released previously.
I can't see the guy's name. Maybe he's on Ian Knight's page where I usually post a lot of the pictures. It was actually a sale of one of the pictures that I donated to get the bench, Beverly. That's how we did that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So we donated the money to you. Yes is the answer. And actually, I'm not just saying this, but yesterday I got the final. I can't say this word. Preliminary sketches from the next one, and it's going to be Smith Dorian at Isandlwana, or rather, near the river as you come down the bank. Bounding up somebody's arm. There's the horse coming over. The Zulus chasing them. It's a really good one. Ian's involved in it, and we've got the preliminary sketches done. So it'll be probably started within a week, and it'll be posted on there, and it'll probably be given away as we always do. Give the originals away to somebody who buys a print.
Just one small thing, because now you've mentioned them again. The Zulus. Is there anybody from their tribes or whatever they're called that is interested in what you write about them?
Dare say there is, yeah. I mean, we've got guys on the social media groups, the Facebook groups that are some guys live over there, do battlefield tours. Others have lived over there and don't anymore. Others do tours from the UK. They go over there, running the tours. They know. I won't pretend to know a lot of these people, but Ian Knight, for example, Brandon, there's loads of people who do know them, and they go over there regular or live over there. They're actually active on the social media groups, which is great. It's really it's really good. And and attended. I don't know if Alex is still on. Was it Dalton? Quite a few people attended the Clash of Empires. Travelled, and they come over to Brecon as well. You know, the museum for events. They've been there. It's really it's great. You know, it's yeah, a lot different than it was in 1879.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. It's great. Yeah. So the answer is yes to that. Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, obviously, thanks, Neil, on behalf of everyone. You know, you were in full flow at points there, and it was, yeah, definitely. I think I certainly learned stuff, and I've read the book several times over already. So, yeah, obviously, yeah, well done, and hope everyone
Thanks,
enjoys reading it.
Yeah, thanks for all jumping on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, no, lovely. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Right, I'm going to stop the recording and then I'm going to close the meeting. So yeah, thank you all for joining, and obviously just keep interacting with us, and we'll have some more talks coming up soon.
Lovely.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.